Go for a third time lucky. Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. If you remember back in the day when Ronnie Dyler was manager, we're going to go and we're going before we get to the speculation about Matt O'Reilly. I want to talk about Callum McGregor. If you remember, Callum McGregor under Ronnie Dyler was a left positioned midfield player, and I can remember guys on the bus saying at the time, "He's like, he's not that good, that young boy. He's not going to make it." And I was like, well, "Give him his due. Wait till you see how his career. I've got a good feeling about him. I'd watched him in some of the Celtic youth games at the time, and I said he's going to be a Celtic captain one day. And look how that turned out. In comes Brendan Rodgers with the young Callum McGregor and says to him, "Look, Cal Mark, he says, I want you to play more in the middle of the park." And he said to the manager, he said, "Boss, where would I stand? I don't play that position. I'm not. What area am I meant to be in?" And Brendan Rodgers, in his wisdom, and Brendan Rodgers has coached some fantastic talent over his career, both at Celtic and Liverpool and Leicester. He said to Callum McGregor, with a little bit of genius, he said, "Callum, he said, just stand where the referee's standing. Just follow the referee around the middle of the park." He said, "That's the kind of position I want you to play in." And then that's turned out not too bad for him because, well, as it stands just now, we've got Callum McGregor playing further back, which is a bit of a disappointment because we all know that he plays a little bit better when he is further forward. Neil Lennon has been speaking about this, and he says that Celtic need a big physical presence in the middle of the field. He says in the engine room, the former Celtic boss said, I would like to see Celtic get a big number 6. That would release Callum McGregor and allow him to go forwards where he excels against sort of better quality. He says he's more attuned to playing at that in that part of the park now. I can understand maybe later in his career that Callum goes back into that position, the holding midfield role. But we all agree that Callum excels when he's further forward on the pitch. And so does Neil Lennon. He says that hopefully that will happen this window. I don't think it's going to happen this window, but there are players at Celtic who can allow Callum McGregor to play further forward. Matt O'Reilly, who's never out of the press just now. Matt O'Reilly's never out of the press. Carlton Palmer has even been speaking about Matt O'Reilly. And he said, look, he says Celtic will keep him on the 1st of February when the transfer window even slams shut. He says, look, the Celtic hierarchy are businessmen. They're not football men. He says, if you go up north with a fee of 20 million in the market, sort of 15 to 20 million in the summer to prize former MK Dons, they like to keep on going on about the fact that he was an MK Dons player. He was a Fulham player before he was an MK Dons player. It says, if you go up there with 20 million and you're built to get Matt O'Reilly easily. That report goes on the back of the fact that La Liga leaders just now, Girona, and alongside and AC Milan have made inquiries about the player. But the English press and the English media seem to think that, he's going to jump at the chance to go back down south and play at a club or a team that's going to be either mid or bottom half of the English Premier League. Shows no ambition at all by the player, if you ask me, if he was to do that. And I think he will still be a Celtic player come the summer. I think he wants one more crack at the Champions League because he knows if he knows, he's not a silly lad, and the manager will tell him this. He knows that if he does it well in the Champions League, he'll get the pick of choices of big clubs, big clubs, not Leicester. No disrespect to Leicester. I know that they've been up the top of the English Premier League once, they maybe won it once, but you want to do things more than once. You want to be up there consistently. Matt O'Reilly has that in his locker, and he will be able to go to a big team that plays in Europe and plays at the top level of Europe on an ongoing basis. Right. A player that signed from Legia Warsaw yesterday had an interview with Celtic. I did talk about it in the live last night. And Big Rocky, we all wondered where he was. We knew he was injured but at the beginning of the season, but he knew he had to bide his time. You see, when he came in from Legia Warsaw, the big Polish defender, he did pull his hamstring in that game against Kilmarnock. Yep, that game at the beginning of the season that we lost. That curtailed any chance. But move on from that. It was the beginning of the season. We're in a far better place now. And I'm going to talk about the transfer window because there's been a lot of people saying it's been a rubbish transfer window. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But anyway, the big Polish stopper pulled out a fantastic game at the weekend. He knew he had to wait his time. He did get pulled into the game against the Rangers when Stephen Welsh came off injured with a shoulder injury. With Cameron Carter-Vickers coming back into the fray, where will they all fit in? People are now asking. Now, there's people talking about the transfer window. Big Rocky's came back in, and he's going to be a fantastic player for Celtic. There's been a lot of noise. We call it noise online, and I'm going to name drop them. There's one Twitter one called the Retro Celtic. And they've come out and said, once again, it's been a shambolic transfer window. This lot are completely out their depth. And I'll put a screenshot of this. And it's quite funny. And I don't know if he's having a rant, but we've still got 7 days or something to go in the transfer window. And I'm going to ask you this, Celtic fans. I'm going to ask you this. If we're in such need of all these players to come in, where are they going to fit in this current Celtic squad? We've got a rather big squad as it is. We're going to have to. People say get rid of the deadwood, but then you're just bringing other players in to try and take players. I mean, look at the Greg Taylor scenario, for instance. Bernabe was on the bench at the weekends again. Bernabe was on the bench at the weekends again. Bernabe was brought in for good money. A lot of people are saying we need a left back. We need a left back. But we brought one in the form of Bernabe. And he hasn't been able to dislodge the one and only Greg Taylor, who hasn't been in perfect form. And people are saying, well, buy another one. And it's like, it's not really the Celtic model just to keep out and going out and buying players just for the sake of it. We did that last summer. We brought in 9 players just for the sake of it because we thought we were going to lose a lot of players. But Brendan Rodgers managed to convince these players that their future was at Celtic, or maybe even didn't get that far. They just decided that they didn't want a transfer. Anyway, some of the comments is the first one, CC. That'll be decided at the end of the window, not now. Doogie Boy 1888 says, imagine winning 23 trophies in 10 years, completely out their depth. Anyway, Chris Martin said, it's not finished yet. Rod Wallace, he went on to say, Rod Wallace, does he not play for? Anyway, Rod Wallace says, Abada coming back, Hatati coming back, Maida coming back, Bernardo finding his feet, Ohm settling in, Scales has been outstanding, Cameron Carter, Vickers getting fitter. Where are all these desperately needed new signings going to fit into this team? Fair play. As years gone by, the mainstream media couldn't help put the boot into our club. Now, it's the usual suspects on Celtic Twitter. The next one says, how are they not mortified walking into work? Nicholson, looking so sinister. Tell me that picture of Mark Lowell, you see the invisible man. Brian Flynn says, it's the usual. Rinse, repeat. Wait until the summer. By that time, we could probably be looking to replace 2 or 3 key players. Anyway, you've got to love Celtic fans. You've got to love catastrophic, yet entirely predictable. They're all on holiday, not giving a single hoot about the state of the squad. The state of the squad? Come on, Celtic fans. The state of the squad. The state of the squad's actually in a not too bad position when you look at it in general. Yes, I'm an advocate of bringing the young players through the system. The likes of Rocco Vata. I think Ben Summers should still be at Celtic, not out on loan. That he should be given his chance. We should be given a lot more chances if they're good enough to be put on loan. They're definitely good enough to be in the Celtic squad. Look at Rocco Vata, and now looks as if the tide might have turned and he might still stay at Celtic. We don't know this yet, but there is a contract on the table from Celtic. There wasn't at the beginning of the summer, but come on, Celtic fans, we're in a lot better position than some other teams in Scotland. And let's face it, we're still top of the league, looking down on the Rangers. If they win their 2 games in hand, we're still top of the league, looking down on them. It's been a fantastic it's been a fantastic decade. It's been a fantastic 2 decades for Celtic. Ever since Martin O'Neill came into the club, there's been very, very few times over the last 23 years that we haven't won the league. And when we haven't won the league, we've generally went out and then fire fought. We're in a position now at the club where we have money in the bank, and yes, we can go out and buy better players, and we could go in and get better quality, as Brendan Rodgers says, or as I say, it should be more experience we're bringing into the club. But the way that the club is run, we can't really complain about it. We all like to have a moan about it, and I'm one of the world's worst for having a moan about the board, and I think they could do better. But that's all about progress. When you think about when Ange Postecoglou came into the club, it was a new dawn. It was a new dawn, and it was a new day. That's a song. Anyway, it was a new dawn, and they were going to change the way that the club was run, and they were going to change everything about the club from the ground upwards, and that lasted 2 seasons, and then Lowell come back to the club, and it all changed again. But then that's just my opinion. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. How bad do you think the transfer window has been, even though we have a squad? I mean, where are all these players that are going to come in? You bring in a left back, and it's like, well, what do you do with Bernabeu? Do we try and get him out on loan? He's never played for Celtic, really, so how are we expecting teams to know what he's like? It's hard to try and get rid of a player like that. Do we get rid of Greg Taylor? No, because he's got the Scottish contingent. We bring in a goalkeeper, but we need to get rid of Benji Siegrist first, who was offered the chance to leave in the summer and didn't. Benji Siegrist was almost on his way to Sturm Grants, but that deal fell through. When you look at the workings of the club and the things that go on in the background, it's kind of hard to have wholesale changes at this time of year, especially when we've got players on such lengthy contracts, and especially when you've got players that haven't played many minutes for Celtic and we're trying to get rid of them. Anyway, on that note, I hope you have a fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world. And just a reminder, but we'll be doing the live at 6 p.m. tonight, Celtic Park time, and there'll probably be an afternoon update as well, just if there's any news kicking about. Hasta luego.